All right, and Phil's not joining us at the table. All righty then, I guess we got everybody here. Welcome to the discussion session of June 27th. Manager McGill, if you could discuss the agenda for tonight's meeting, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's agenda, we have the consideration of an ordinance amending the home rule charter regarding commission vacancies. We talked about this. We had a public hearing at the last meeting. Proposed ordinance would result in the commission vacancies being filled on a normal 2-year election cycle. We also have the consideration of a resolution for a sidewalk assessment program for municipal sidewalks. The resolution orders the replacement of deteriorated sidewalks by property owners, or the municipality will cause the work to be done and bill the property owners. And then we have the consideration for 2 road grant resolutions to apply for funding. The Allegheny County Sanitary Authority, ALCASAN, green revitalization of our waterways. That's the GROW program grant that we've utilized. This is cycle 8. We've received significant offsets for work that needs to be done related to our source.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, golf course cart path bids. So it's like, okay, so well, Matt's coming. Good evening.
Hi.
How you doing?
Have a little presentation that goes along with the letter that I provided to the commission. We did take bids on the improvements to the golf course cart paths. We met with David Danone, Colin, Jason from the golf course a few months ago. Kind of outlined the work that we anticipate or would like to have done, and then just I guess building on that. Before I go too far, I'm just going to go through a little bit of history overview and some of those items there. But I guess before I go to that, back in 2017, we did work on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locations. And this was budgeted as the continuation of that project. All of these areas that were in the budget for this year were bid in 2017. But due to lack of funding at that time, they weren't all included. But during the review with staff, we identified some additional areas that had degraded beyond where they were in 2017, where we thought, hey, if we're taking bids, let's look at these other areas too. Yes, they weren't included in the budget, but we thought, hey, let's get pricing for them, see where it falls, and then we bid each one separately. So that's such that we could pick and choose, or if they do come in favorably, we could do all of them, or if there's additional funding, like that. So this is kind of an overview. This is not necessarily intended to read at this scale, but there's individual plans that showed each of the locations. Most notably, like where the pavilion is, there was some additional cart path work that we wanted to do there, right around the clubhouse. If you notice the ramp going up to the clubhouse is in poor condition, that was an add-on as well. So there were a number of locations that we added to what was originally in the budget. So that these plans were put together, they were bid, and we ended up getting pricing for 12 different options. The reason for the numbering, the 2A, 2B relates to whole number 2. That's why it's 2A, 2B. 3 is on whole 3, 3A, B, and C, and so on and so forth. 10 is just around the clubhouse. I didn't have a number for that, so that's the one around the clubhouse. So the ones that you see here, we did receive 3 bids. There were 6 bidders that took out the plans and specs. Paving at a golf course, it's not like paving a street. It is a little bit more of a specialty because you don't have easy access and you kind of have to work around the golf course facility. So although we had 6 that took out the plans and specs, we had 3 bids, and by all means, I think they were all the first 2 I definitely know of. Done Right, I had not heard of before as far as a contractor. Doesn't mean that it wasn't a good bid. It just I've not had experience with that. But that being said, the bids that we did take, the items that are italicized in this list, so 2A, 3A, 3C, 7, 8A, 8B, 8C. Those were the ones that were originally considered in this year's budget. This year's budget appropriated $107,500 for cart path improvements. If you look at the bid price for those items that were originally included in the budget, it came in at $69,927 for what was in the budget. That being said, the total was $119. Our engineer's estimate for the whole project was $140. So we feel like we got good pricing for where we are today. And then just as an overview, just some of the benefits of if the funding is available to do all of the work, the benefit would be really all the cart path improvements would be done. It started in 2017. We're looking at, hopefully we have the funding finishing them here in 2023. It would limit the inconvenience to the golf course to 1 year as opposed to multiple years for the path. As we all know, asphalt prices are continuing to increase, so it's only going to get more expensive, I would anticipate. And the contractor that was our low bidder, TA Robinson, yes, they are doing the asphalt paving as part of the reconstruction. They're a sub to our reconstruction contractor, Neando, that's doing the work on the reconstruction program. So they are in the area. They have done other golf course cart path projects in the area, even I think one as of this year as well. So they're familiar with the site. They have actual players that are in a league at the Mount Lebanon Golf Course. So not that factors into anything. But
They're familiar.
They're very familiar with the site.
Maybe
So,
missed and maybe care.
yeah, so there is that's why I just said familiarity with the site there. So I guess just as an overview, that's where we're at. That's where our bids came in. We would
Yeah,
recommend,
so you're talking, wait, it's 20,000 under what we funded at 140, 20.
We funded
We-
107.
we funded 107.
Okay.
The bid came in at 119, so it's
107 to
12,
119.
it's 12.
12 over, so we're asking for 12 over, but we get a bunch more done. Yeah, okay, $12,000.
When we last time we met, and we had a presentation on recycled
Yes.
asphalt, is there any way to use some recycled material for this?
Well, yes, so the asphalt mix designs that we will have as part of this project do include a wrap, like recycled asphalt product included in the mix design, so yes. So that would be something that would.
So that'd be part of it, and we've achieved those savings as part of the bid as well.
Correct.
I know there are all kinds of design guidelines for streets. There are design guidelines for cart paths.
Well, the same parameters follow true, like you have to make sure you're on a solid base, and there is a base that we cut in a slot and we put the stone on, we put the asphalt down. So although you're on a golf course, there is still a process.
Yeah, well, no, that's a couple reasons I ask. One is, again, you see streets that are deeper, they last longer. And then on the other hand, the Parks Board is actively talking about design guidelines for trails, right? And obviously there's different ways to approach it. So I was just curious, do we have a standard expectation for what,
Yeah, so the section itself is gonna be 4 inches of asphalt. So there's gonna be 4 inches of asphalt down with a stone base underneath. And
I think Commissioner Flynn's asking a question. We have a standard design for streets. Do we have a standard design for a golf cart path?
yes, this is well, I don't know that it's an official standard, but it's definitely more than adequate for what the golf course traffic would be on it. If that answers the question. I don't know. So we just want to bring this before the commission today. We're not asking really for a decision today. There would be a recommendation at the next meeting in July for award. But I guess how we tailor that recommendation, we would like some direction, whether we're going to recommend awarding all of it or what was originally.
I think we need to see numbers and what else is fine for that money.
Yeah, well, and that, as part of the discussion session on the 11th, we're gonna go through available funding
Right,
for other projects.
right.
I can, although this is not typical, I can write the agenda item with two separate recommended actions. One for the original base project that was originally part of the
Right.
budget discussion,
Sure.
and then also write one for a recommended action.
I think that's-
Expanded, and the commission can make that
Make that
decision.
decision then, sure.
It's just, I mean, it's a $12,000 decision. I mean, we already budgeted.
I know, but you really want to see what's in that pot of money. There are a lot of asks for that.
Yeah.
And I think I want to see it in total rather than piecemeal away.
And again, I used to do that routinely for planning board, I can do it.
Sure, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm inclined to go for it, like you said, for all the reasons, and then we've been waiting since 2017. This has been a high priority item for the Sports Advisory Board. We don't even have a golf representative anymore on the board, but they brought it up every meeting. Well, the paths are a big problem, so I do know that it would benefit the community and the users of the golf course at large. I know David's been saying it's something that should get done for quite a while, but I don't mind waiting and having a larger discussion. I'll be in favor of then probably too, but
Sure. It's
we can
fine.
wait for the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Either way, you'll have an action item on the commission agenda for the
Perfect.
11th.
Right.
It'll just be a question.
Fine.
Which one?
David,
And,
anything?
I would just say, and the only thing I would add to that is, so the base, the items that were originally in the budget were at 69, but we would probably recommend adding a few others to get.
No, to the one.
On the one option and then the full option.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
You pick what you think is most
And I'll work
important.
with
I was
staff.
gonna say, work with
Yeah.
staff, bring you back something that hits the budget number, and then we'll have the ultimate for you.
Anything David, you wanna add?
I mean, just for the sake of efficiency, they're gonna mobilize once instead of twice. We bid the project once instead of twice.
They cost.
We're gonna inconvenience our clients, our customers once, not twice. I mean, I think it just makes sense if we can fit it into the budget that we do it.
Mr. Flynn, any thoughts?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, anybody else? Let's move on to next topic. All right, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank
Next
you.
up, trash. Solid waste and recycling bids, Steve McBean.
It just makes my evening.
I'm sure it does.
It's rad.
Talking trash.
Talking trash.
Team Trash, we're here.
Yeah, trash talk.
All right, thank you, commissioners, for having us this evening. So you all got a slight taste of what it would have been like to be one of my college professors. I wrote you a short memo on,
Either short or.
I wrote you a
Marked it up, see?
summary of,
It's like, that's the whole thing.
bids and
I read the whole
offers. So,
thing.
I will run through some high level points here, and then really the purpose of this discussion is to get some direction on the commission for what they want out of staff before making a final decision, because we do need some direction. Not asking for any final decisions tonight, but if we get some direction, that can help us kind of figure out what additional information the commission wants from us. So with me are Finance Director Andrew McCreary, Public Works Director Rudy Sukol. They were also very helpful in putting this all together and looking through the very lengthy documents of bid specs and contract award numbers and everything else that came in. So just an overview, we'll run through some historical data, talk about the bids that were received. Really, there's three key decision points that the commission needs to make before their August meeting when you need to vote to award a contract, and then we'll talk about some next steps. So we've been tracking solid waste data. Andrew and Rudy and I have been maintaining a shared spreadsheet on this since about, well, the data goes back to 2009. Rudy was the only one of us that was here in 2009, but we've got data going back that long and we update it. Whenever we get information from the contractor, usually quarterly-ish, they provide us updates on tonnage-ish. So we had Republic Services for a while, and then we have had Waste Management these last 4 years. Overall trends in solid waste tonnage, it went down quite a bit with Republic, and then with the changes that happened 5 years ago with the reintroduction of glass and some plastics being removed from the recycling stream, we saw the solid waste numbers jump back up in the first year of the contract, but now they've kind of come back down to sort of around where they were in the last few years of the Republic contract as well. Similarly, when you look over at the recycling numbers, the recycling numbers dropped quite a bit when glass and those plastics were removed from the recycling stream back in 2019, which makes sense because glass is the heaviest item in a recycling stream. So this is mostly just to sort of inform the commission that we are tracking this data. But long-term, over the last 15 years, because the accepted materials in the recycling stream have changed, it's kind of hard to say what the trends have been. Obviously, we can see the last 4 years, we've been kind of right around that, 1,500 tons per year number. But drawing 15-year trends gets a little more difficult because the, material mix changed. As far as the bids received for this contract, so there were 2 bidders, Republic Services, who I mentioned had our contract.
2 bidders.
Yeah, there were.
Westmoreland, you said Republic.
No. There were 2 bidders, period. Republic Services, who had our contract previously, comma, did not bid, period.
Point for pay attention.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. That's what they hear for.
Who said punctuation doesn't matter?
I appreciate, I do talk fast, so the punctuation sometimes lost. I appreciate.
Back to being audience professors.
Yes, all right, so there were 2 bidders, Waste Management and Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill. Republic Services, who previously had our contract, did not bid. Republic attended the pre-bid meeting, but did not submit a bid. So, we now have to choose between these 2 options of Waste Management and Westmoreland. Westmoreland only submitted bids on a per household billing basis. They did not submit any bids to bill per ton. Westmoreland also submitted a letter as an addendum to their bid that they would not be able to provide automated collection to 5 of the 20 communities that were part of the SHACOG bid, and Mount Lebanon was one of those 5. So really, Westmoreland's only viable bid numbers in the document are those for the manual collection. Waste Management submitted bid numbers for everything. So that's kind of where things land as far as who is an applicable bidder, depending on the decision points that the commission makes. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. So there are some contractual changes. This is regardless of who wins the bid or who is the successful bidder. These are changes that are coming. So there are limitations on household output.
I'd also say that this is regardless of whether you go automated or traditional.
Thank you. That was my question. And this is happening across the whole
That's
community.
correct.
It's not just us. Every neighboring community is getting these
This is
limitations.
regardless of what we
One
decide
bid.
after these slides, this is all happening.
This is happening. We didn't have a choice. I'm telling our residents this. We didn't have a choice. They came back and they said 1 bin max.
You wanted it to be
Recycling,
more expensive than what it's already gonna be.
1 bin, yeah.
We could have done something different, but as a collective group of 20 communities, we decided on these in order to keep our costs low.
And residents will have the
This
option.
is with the leverage of 20 communities.
Right.
Correct.
Using all of our muscle volume, we still got this.
That's
And
great.
I will also say that these limitations mirror the limitations that we saw in contracts that were bid and awarded last year, like the Hampton and some other North Hills communities had these same limitations put on them last year when they awarded their contract. Quaker Valley Cog had the same limitations when they bid out their contract. So
It's industry trend.
yes,
But residents can probably purchase their own bins through the vendors directly.
yeah.
That's a whole nother.
That's a whole-
That's good.
That's fast forward.
There's residents.
Oh, and this whole discussion about
That's
that.
a whole
We'll cover that.
discussion.
Yeah, you
That's
jumped.
correct.
Yeah.
So as far as limitations that are coming, all materials must be placed in the bin. So no more bags or cardboard boxes beside the bins.
Or things on top of the bin.
Right. The base collection is for 1 garbage bin and 1 recycling bin per household. And bulk item collection would now be once a month instead of being available every collection week.
2 items.
2 items, yes.
2 items once a month. right?
People will define the size of a bin.
So yes, the base bin within the bid is a 96 gallon bin. Residents would have the option to choose either a smaller or larger bin depending on their.
Not larger.
No, sorry. Well, they could choose additional bins, sorry. 96 is the maximum size.
Bin size, bin size standard, the commission's gonna have to decide on.
End of discussion.
For automated collection, you're gonna have a 96 gallon standard bin for refuse, for recycling 64 or 96, that's a commission decision
Oh.
to be had. In addition, for, if you choose to stay with standard, what we've always done manual, as we're calling it manual collection. The bins, I believe it all has to be in a bin, but it's a 5 bag limit. That is a 5 bag limit.
Wait, 5 bag limit.
For manual collection, so you can have multiple bins, but they all have to be in the bin and it's only 5 bags.
Right.
And the residents can keep their current.
They can
bins
keep
that
their
have.
current bins, but there'd be 5 bag limit, and that's a huge
Difference
difference.
than what we have right now.
Yes, a 96 gallon bin can carry 5 or more bags. It's a big bin.
Yeah.
Or a standard,
Yeah.
13 gallon trash bag. We're not talking about yard waste. I know some of those get into it with 33 gallon bags and all that different stuff, but so there's a slight difference there, but yes.
Same like garbage.
Now,
It takes about
no
5
question. You say 5 bags, they say 5 tall kitchen bags, 5 lawn leaf.
5 bags of whatever you have, 5 bags. And
It has to fit into the
container.
Right, but I'm not gonna say
5
5 Giant
bags.
Eagle bags full of trash, you hit the limit. or
That's
something.
correct.
Okay.
The way it was explained to us, was that their theory is that you could fit 5 large trash bags into a 96 gallon container. And the maximum weight on that would be 300 pounds, so if they're doing
And
it
that's what they're
automated,
really trying to.
if it's automated, right?
Yeah.
On the recycling side, both contractors indicated they are willing to accept glass with the single stream curbside recycling once again. So glass will be coming back in as an accepted material. That being said, staff, and I know our sustainability coordinator, Greg Wharton, had a tour of the waste management recycling facility with members from the Environmental Sustainability Board a couple weeks ago. So they got a whole bunch of information from that. And also we've kind of learned over time that the glass collection at the single source drop-off sites like down at Village Square that we participate in, or Michael Brothers, or wherever else you might want to take your glass. The recovery rate from that glass is much higher than the recovery rate from glass put in your single stream. So this is one of the challenges our public information office is going to have from a messaging standpoint of saying, if you have glass and you can put it in your curbside bin for recycling, and that's fine, that's definitely better than the trash. But if you want more of it to get recycled and turned into new glass, continue taking it to these other collection sites. So we're going to still participate in those other collection sites because we see the value in more of the material actually being turned into new glass. But it will once again be accepted as part of the curbside recycling stream.
Well, the other piece of our messaging is if we're only allowed to have 1 recycling bin per pickup. Here's a chance to use it for non-glass stuff. You got some place to take your glass.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. The one other item of good news that I know there's not a lot of good news in this report is the elimination of the contamination penalty. So for those of you that were here 5 years ago when we discussed this, you may remember that there was a huge concern about contamination in the recycling load. And there was language in the contract that if the hauler deemed our recycling loads were too contaminated with non-recyclable materials, that then they could fine the municipality, I think it was $150 per load. And there was,
The provision was never enacted.
Yeah.
It's eliminated from the contract.
yeah, so there was a concern on staff's part when we presented this 5 years ago. If you go back and watch that presentation of.
The big,
There.
it was the big, it was the big
Yeah,
it was the big unknown.
yeah, it was, potentially big unknown.
Yep.
And then also Christmas tree collection, based on the numbers received from the 2 contractors in their bids. Rudy and his department have determined we're gonna bring that service in-house. Because the numbers in the bid were prohibitive from paying the contractor to do it.
Plus, I think the number of trees every year starts to go down.
There's a good bit. The logistics will be challenging, but I
Yeah.
think the way we'll set it up, instead of picking them all up on a Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll pick them up like we do with the leaves. We'll collect
That's
them
smart.
one day
Sure, one
in
day.
advance of the garbage.
Yeah, that's smart.
With our open dump truck. So
Sure.
we've been picking up a lot of stragglers anyway, so
Yeah,
the cost that they bid, the individual cost per truck was astronomical, so
Yeah.
it's really not, yeah.
Heard that.
They basically told us they didn't want to do it.
No,
They
yeah,
wanna do
that's
it.
pretty-
Yeah.
They don't want to send their trucks out.
Right, yeah, right.
So in order to award the contract, by the August meeting, there are really three key decision points that, we need from the commission, we being staff. And then some sub decision points kind of below those. So the three key points are billing type, whether it's per unit or per ton, collection type, whether it's the traditional manual collection or automated collection, and then the frequency of recycling, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly.
And size of bins, it sounds like too.
If we go to
Only
automated,
if you go
that's a
to-
If
subset
we're
of,
in automated.
yeah, that's
size
a,
of bins.
it's a subset, that's
I'm
correct.
gonna have a big discussion about the bin, I'll wait till we get there.
Yes.
Right,
And I should also say, that in garbage hauler lingo, cans, carts, bins are all interchangeable words, they're synonyms, so, if we say carts or cans, we mean bins, same thing. Okay, so we'll come back to this slide, but I wanted to kind of highlight what the key decision points are for the commission to make. So as far as billing type goes, historically, over the last decade, paying per household, the flat rate has been much cheaper than paying per ton. We've saved about
Right.
$2.2 million over the last 9 years by paying on a per household basis. And based on the numbers in the bids received, that number is probably going to continue on of being much less expensive to pay on a per household basis than pay on a per ton basis.
That makes
So
that decision.
staff strongly recommends against paying on a tonnage
The other
basis.
challenge is we really have no, say, good way to verify the tonnage numbers.
Sure. I
So
mean,
that's why.
just do it by household.
Yeah.
I've always done that.
whatever the cheaper option is what we're gonna wanna do, so,
That's less expensive to do it per household.
yeah, we don't care, just whatever's cheaper, right? Right, Andrew?
It's also much easier from a budgeting standpoint that we know we have
Right, yeah.
11,065 households.
So let's make that decision today.
Household.
Well, do I have
He
three
said-
yeses?
He said yes.
Okay.
All of us are yes.
I missed the thumb one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an easy one. Still, on the traditional manual collection side, now I should note with these other decision points, the commission can make whatever decision as far as structure they want to, and then kind of has to choose the low bidder within that structure.
Yeah,
So, for example, if the commission chose traditional manual collection, whether you chose weekly or bi-weekly, Westmoreland is the low bidder on both. So Westmoreland would get the contract, then the
Got it.
numbers would just be kind of determined on the recycling.
Can I have something in there too?
Yes.
We can only go with one contractor. We can't fix. It has to be
Okay, that's
recycling.
helpful to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, right, so we can't choose like Westmoreland's recycling number and Waste Management solid waste number. We have to go with one.
Right.
And these numbers are the full 5-year contract cost.
At a per unit.
At a per unit basis, yes. Since we strongly recommended the per unit. we
It's
felt
pretty
pretty
real like the
about-
previous slide.
Yes, so these numbers are based on the per unit cost over the 5-year life of the contract.
so what's the experience for the resident or for Public Works? What's the difference in manual? I know what it means, but how would I care as a resident?
Manual collection, you would get to keep your current bins that you use. We would continue the recycling sticker program. And you can kind of go out, buy your own bins and choose them, and use them rather than having bins that were either contractor provided or provided by the municipality.
Okay, so bin, I get to keep my bins if we go with manual.
Yes.
Anything else?
On a large scale, the manual number with bi-weekly recycling is the lowest total number in the contract bids. So, looking at it from a pure financial standpoint, it is the cheapest.
And the other thing for the manual versus the automatic, is just the environmental of saying, now everybody has to get new bins, which means we now have to landfill all these old bins. As opposed to with the manual, keep your bin, we have to worry about now landfilling all these additional empty trash bins. To me, that's one more argument for the manual option as opposed to the automatic.
I think with the automated, not that I'm pushing for this or recommending it, but it gives you some level of consistency, where every bin is the same, everyone has the same trash container. or one or two, so you wouldn't have, a recycling tote, with
Right.
the sticker on it.
Paper in it,
Yeah, it would
yeah.
all, it would be consistent then,
yeah.
so. From that standpoint, you would see the same container at every property throughout the
So it
community.
might look aesthetically more pleasing.
Yeah, I'm kind of going, I get you aesthetic on sidewalks, trash cans, I'm sorry.
Not so much aesthetics, it's more of just a consistent,
Yeah.
so. There could be some room for argument from the contractor if you have different size containers there with different bags, is this 3.5 bags or 5 bags or 5.5 bags? I get all the arguments from both sides, so I'm the middleman, I'm the judge, and when I get the arguments from the residents and the contractor, so.
The consistency might make public works.
It might make it a little bit
better.
easier to manage the complaints and those type of things, so.
Might.
Yeah. No guarantees when you're talking trash.
I can't believe this some of the things people complain
Okay, so moving on to the automated collection, so, there are some different types of automated collection, there's this
Yeah.
type we show in the picture with,
Right.
the little claw that grabs it, throws it into a bin on the front of the truck that then hoists it up over the top of the truck and throws it into the back. There's also side loader trucks, that, we'll just throw it right over the top. The one key aspect of this contract that I will note, is that previously, we said in this one, Westmoreland indicated they can't provide automated collection in Mount Lebanon. Previously, other contractors, Waste Management or Public Services, had said they couldn't provide automated collection in Mount Lebanon because of a variety of factors. Street trees, wires, on-street parking, all that kind of stuff. Terrain, hillsides, yeah. And it wasn't just Mount Lebanon, it was Mount Lebanon, Dormont, Brentwood, I think Mount Oliver. There was a handful of communities that they said, we just can't do it for. So this bid changed the definition of automated collection slightly to include an automated collection where the driver or another, worker on the truck pulls the trash bin from the curb into the roadway, and then the claw still is able to lift it and dump it. And one of those reasons that they were willing to define it that way is that waste haulers have one of the highest injury rates of any industry. They have the highest workers' comp mod factor of any industry. And so really what they were trying to get away from was their employees lifting heavy things. So they said, if you have these standardized carts or bins or whatever we want to call them, that we can wheel out into the road, as long as the claw can do the hoisting and our employees don't have to do the hoisting, we're willing to bid you count that as automated collection for you. Yes, so there are, with automated collection, as we referenced, some one-time upfront cost considerations. As Commissioner Silverman mentioned, the removal of the existing bins from the properties, because pretty much every property that we collect for has at least one trash and one recycling bin, if not more. And then there would be the cost of providing 2 standardized bins to households. And there were different options in the contract bid for this between contractor owned and municipality owned. So the contractor owned numbers, you'll see.
Contractor provided.
Sorry, contractor provided. Yes, that is correct.
We
Thank you.
own them at the end of the contract.
Yes. So
Regardless of any of this contract, we own them regardless at the end of 5 years.
thank you. That is a key consideration. Yes. So the contractor provided option essentially amortizes the cost of the bins over 5 years. These are once again the same per household rate, 5-year total contract. So you see that the municipality provided carts have a lower number than the contractor provided carts. But that's essentially because they're amortizing their costs of providing the carts over 5 years within the base cost of the bid. So we did mention those upfront costs as well. We did try to estimate them a little bit between an estimation of what it would cost for, there were numbers provided for removing existing bins and taking them to the landfill. So in the contractor provided cart scenario, we estimated what the cost of that could look like. We did our best. And then in the municipality provided scenario, that includes both the 663,000 number plus the number of the municipality purchasing the carts upfront that will be provided to residents. So there are also hybrid options available. So depending on how you want to look at this, I know I said that the Westmoreland's traditional manual collection number was the lowest overall number in the contract, and that is true if you consider the grand totals of these all being over 19,000. These grand totals include the upfront cost estimates. So if you just want to look at the base bid numbers, they are lower than these ones through Waste Management are lower than, sorry, what Westmoreland provided, but there are also these upfront costs to consider as well.
Wait, the,
It's
I'm
17.
looking, going to.
The municipality provided one with the 17,000
Yeah, 17.
or 17 million, sorry.
Yeah, that one's lower, just like that first line that the subtotal is 18,780,000,
Yes,
that Westmoreland is 18,278.
yes.
He's just referring to the
Versus-
second, he's talking about the second
Second.
line subtotal.
496.
Yeah.
So there is a, there is a waste management option that's lower than West.
The other piece of that is that we would own those carts at the end of 5 years. So for the next bid, you already have that cost covered. I think there's a 10-year warranty on those carts.
In which scenario do we own them?
All.
All
either
of
one.
them, whether it's contractor or municipality?
That's correct.
Okay.
Wanted to make sure that was distinct. The other aspect too, that you want to consider within this is at the end of, while at the end of it, buried in these numbers is the 5-year cost. It's the 5th year is really when automated at its base level per year starts to become less than manual.
Why is that?
It just because automated over, we're paying for the carts, we're paying for the carts, and then kind of where you amortize,
Yeah.
the 5th year it starts to flip. And we as staff will tell you that those that chose to do automated many years ago are reaping the reward now.
So it's an investment.
Correct. So a community to our south who will remain nameless chose to do it over 2 cycles, right? They did recycling 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and then 4 years ago, they did refuse. Well, their bid number is going to be way lower than ours today because they already have bins. And that's, I think, what Keith is starting to say. But if you take that bin upfront cost out, which we can explain more about bins when we talk, once we get to Steve's questions. The 5th year is where on the standardization, taking the bins out of it and the upfront, getting rid of your old bins is really where it starts to flip. And we foresee that being advantageous in the future. Just throw that in your decision making.
For year 6, 7.
For year 6, so yeah, correct.
So to add on to that, if you look at Appendix B of the memo that I sent you, that's like, I'm not calling it a memo.
Appendix B, subchapter A.
Page 18.
I read this.
Yes, so if you look at what Andrew's referring to is if you look at the 2028 total numbers,
Mhm.
the Westmoreland landfill manual collection number is 4.3 million for 2028 versus the 2028 number for Waste Management's automated collection is 4.25 million. So
Starts to go down.
yeah, so what I have on the screen here is presenting the overall numbers for 5 years, but Andrew is correct that in the 5th year is kind of where you
Right.
see the switch over.
And it's that aesthetically pleasing thing too, you know.
So what happens with if it's vendor provided bin and the bin breaks or the
If it's provided by the contractor, it is the contractor's responsibility then to replace the bin. Either way, doesn't matter. Yes.
We can talk all about bins when we get there. Let's continue on and get to there's a whole discussion about bins.
exciting?
A whole bit of bin discussion.
So the one other item that wasn't in the memo, but we talked about is this hybrid approach where the contractor provides the garbage bins, but the municipality provides the recycling bins. In which case, some of our upfront costs would be a little lower because we'd only be buying half as many bins. So that does change the calculus a little bit more. So you can see with that hybrid approach, on the whole, on the grand total, it sort of lands between the contractor provided bins and the municipality provided bins. But as far as a base subtotal number goes, taking out that upfront cost, that 18.25 million is then slightly less than the 18.27 million from the traditional manual collection number as a base amount, not factoring in the upfront costs.
And in addition, that specific example is laid out that way because there's the opportunity to apply for grant funding for the recycling bins. It's undetermined how much that will be, but there is the possibility of that upfront cost being subsidized in some way by a state grant for those bins.
And is that grant still available if we would buy the bins for both trash and recycling?
The trash does not apply to, it's only for
Not
recycling.
the grant.
Recycling.
We won't get a grant for it, but we could decide, we don't have to do a hybrid option to qualify, right?
You'd have to apply 5 times if you did all contractor provided. You'd have to apply 5 times for that grant
I see.
over
Versus
time.
municipality.
Yes, whereas this would be, we front the cash, we apply, and it's a reimbursable type grant, so you can front the cash and then go apply for the grant and get reimbursed for it.
Wonderful.
So that's undetermined at this point. We have,
Right, no promises.
we can explore how we're gonna do that,
There's 92 grants max 300,000.
350, I think it is, yeah, every 2
but
years.
we're not guaranteed to get the full 350, but there could be a subsidization of that.
Mhm. And all
At this point, I kind of guesstimate of what you think it might be.
They're probably gonna give it all to us, but we're usually pretty convincing,
Yeah,
but
it's a maximum of 350,000.
There'll be a decision point too, because with the 902 grant, we've used those in the past on machinery that fits under the parameters of that program.
Mhm.
So you're capped
I see.
at
Got
a
it.
2-year, they look at it, it's a 2-year look back. So you're limited in terms of the amount of funding that you can get. So if we use it for one,
Right.
we may not be able to use it. for
For
another.
the
It
other.
might not be a true savings, or we have to.
I'm just, again,
it's still a savings because we're getting
It's still a
350 we don't
savings,
have,
right.
but yes, it's something that we're weighing, and as we move forward, it's just a caveat to the yellow numbers is to think about that as well.
All these figures, are we assuming that the bin size for trash is 96 gallon and recycling is
96.
96 gallon for all these numbers? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then just in summary, because it's another decision point for weekly versus bi-weekly recycling. The difference is at least 2.8 million and up, depending on which option we went with. So, whether it was, this is just another decision point. I kind of laid it out based on how the other decision points land. If you land on manual collection, you land on automated collection, kind of what those numbers look like for weekly versus bi-weekly recycling. So weekly recycling is a fairly significant increase over the bi-weekly recycling numbers.
Setting the dollars aside for a second, otherwise it's a big number to set aside. I got the feeling as I seem to see people with 2 cans of recycling. More often than one. I
It's a
don't know
lot
if
of
you see-
cardboard. People are getting things delivered at home more and more, so a lot
Yeah,
of.
I mean, but
cardboard.
that's where.
Exactly. A lot of
Yeah.
people need a lot. I need a lot of recycling. I have 3 recycling.
And even going back to the last contract, when people were, clamoring, can we do, can we do weekly recycling?
Yeah.
And so.
We know residents want it. Yeah,
Well, not that they want it, we're down to only 1 can.
exactly.
And everything has to fit in that can
Yeah,
too. You
fit in that
can't
can.
follow
Yeah.
It's
cardboard.
not like,
Not the case now.
you've seen like trash where, it's like, but yeah, where everybody. You need, you have boxes next to the can, and that's not gonna be allowed either. So just, otherwise we don't make the decision tonight, but I just keep looking at that weekly versus the bi-weekly. Given what the demand is of the folks for.
I agree with you. Our residents want it, and
I have a question. I know I'm not supposed to ask a question. I can ask it anyway.
you are.
Go for it.
So if we made the decision initially to go with, stay with bi-weekly recycling collection, is there an option in year 2 to change that to weekly? Are you locked in for the initial decision?
Pretty sure you're locked.
Pretty sure you're locked in.
And we can follow up with Lou Gorski at Shaycock there.
And yeah, the reason I asked that question is, I understand your point, Steve, because we need recycling cans, right? But that being said, neither one of those is 96 gallons. They're probably
Yeah, 96
35
is
gallon cans.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting twice the capacity,
Yeah.
is it really an impact? And I was just seeing if there was a way to be able to gauge that during the first year and then pivot. And we do have the option, I guess, a resident would have the option to
There's another can,
Right.
Or another can, I don't want
Yes.
to hurt you for your presentation.
It's a per bin, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is correct. That kind of segues into the bid conversation a little bit too. So really, the last slide I have is just on the next steps, which is the decision points on the contract structure. We have to award it by the August 8th commission meeting. And staff can sort of financially model, like you saw in my appendices, whatever structure the commission wants to see. We're hoping this conversation, we get that a little bit narrowed down to like one or two options that you want to see us financially model for you. So we can do that. We just need some direction there. And then kind of based on what decisions the commission makes, the public information office will start crafting the marketing and public information plan. We kind of need those decision points made first before we, fully get into how we're going to market it. And then there's also the question of how to pay for the increases in cost.
Yes.
Whether it's the tax increase versus fees. Right now, we pay for solid waste out of our general fund taxes. We could consider a conversion to a garbage fee. A lot of our neighboring communities have those. There was some information in my essay about fees. That decision doesn't need to be made now at this time. We can kind of wait till budget time or around thereof to make that decision. But if we are converting to a fee, then there's some additional work the finance office is going to have to go through to ramp that up. So the sooner the better, but that one doesn't have to be made by August. That one, the discussion can happen later on. And then as far as future thinking goes, I think it's worth, given the cost numbers in this contract, that whoever we choose, we're going to be at $4 million a year by the end of this contract. At least doing some financial exploration and modeling on what the cost of in-house collection would be. My recommendation would be that the commission assign that to the financial management board after the board transition happens in April of next year. Potentially if the commission wants to, you could even have a ad hoc subcommittee with members of the finance board and the resiliency board, however you want to do it. But I think that would be a very good task assignment for the new boards to undertake next year.
Curry looks excited, ecstatic about.
2.0, man. More trash talk. I was on the pay as you throw committee back in 14.
The question.
I want to add two things to Ian, before we get into it. One is, if we go automated, if you so choose to go to automated, I want to make sure that everybody knows in this room and publicly, is we will not, on January 1st, will not be automated. This is not January 1st.
Okay,
Minimum would be April 1st. After choosing automated, we discuss with the contractor when we think this is going to be in place. So there will be, that's a future, but at January 1, we are not automated.
Some transition period.
There's a transition period, and that's bid within the contract. The numbers assumed there is a June 1st or July 1st. So July, assume 6 months of manual collection, and just want to make sure that's good. And then on the bin side, I just want to make sure, is there any questions on bins? Do we want to talk about that now, or was that where you were?
I was actually where I was headed, because one was, you mentioned in your presentation, Ian, about the cost of second bin. And as I recall, you said that it had to be negotiated with the hauler. Do we have any projection of what that would be?
There's bids within, yes, there's bid numbers within the contract. And how it works is it's essentially a private agreement between the resident and the contractor, kind of like if someone has backyard collection right now, that there's an agreement between the resident and the contractor, and the resident pays the contractor the annual fee that was bid in the contract for an additional bin. I think for the first year, it's $110, and then it's $117, then $125, it kind of goes up from there. So
110 for the whole year to have a second bin.
correct, yes. And that's for trash or recycling.
Okay.
The other thing I'll note, because I talked with Lou Gorski fairly extensively this morning about this, that second bin is a contractor provided bin. So the municipality, because it's a private agreement between the resident and the contractor, the municipality is not part of that agreement. We essentially just got the rate from the
negotiated rate.
It's a negotiated rate, but
The contractor will deliver the bin to their address. It'll be an agreement with them. It will be a different color. It will look different than our standard bins. There will be this clear distinction that this is a separate agreement bin
Right,
for that address.
and that would be again 96 gallon. In,
You could choose, I believe.
It's,
what size,
yeah,
yes.
but most likely it's gonna be 96 gallon or I think it's gonna probably be a 64 gallon for recycling. Would be my guess.
can we confirm that, please?
Yes, but I believe it's 64.
Because I'm more concerned about that second bin for recycling. I think that's where more the pain points. are gonna be.
Speaking with our neighbors to the south, that will not be, a lot of people called to complain when they first did that too. And now with it all having to be in one bin, they're worried about their 64 gallon toters.
Yeah.
They feel they would be in much better off position starting with 96. So 96 is a better position to start with. That's where we'll start at. I feel that those that need extra bins will do so. And those that can manage without it and spread it over time and do all those different things, I think we'll be fine without it. But I think the pricing selected here, I believe is for 64, but we can confirm that for recycling specifically.
Is that 110, if we can confirm this, include the cost of the bin itself?
Yes,
Because those bins are expensive. Okay.
but they also
It's-
probably buy them for
They
$50.
amortize the
I
cost.
was saying it's per year.
Yeah.
So the next year it's 117, then it goes to 125. So
And they've only paid $50
Oh,
for
it
the
goes up
bin.
per year.
Yeah.
They're making money. Yeah,
Yeah, they
they're
did-
not
they
losing
did,
money by
yeah.
providing you a second.
Yeah,
So it's 117 for the first year and then it's more
110.
expensive.
No, 110,
and then it's more
then
expensive after
117.
that.
You're gonna get an annual bill from Waste Management that says, here's for your extra bin.
And again, understand that we do transfer a fairly significant amount of properties in the municipality. So just because a resident has the need for two bins, right? If that family moves out, the next family in may not have that same need. So that's why it's structured as an annual agreement.
So there's the section of the bid docs that has the annual numbers for the.
What I find so fascinating is how Waste Management has so many different structures. In every other place I've lived where we've had Waste Management.
Yeah.
They have had very different structures that were much clearer, much more logical. This makes no sense to me.
But you're in Western Pennsylvania, nothing. makes sense.
Clearly, but it's Waste Management.
It's the same, yeah, it's the same.
And the other thing that I understand why I didn't necessarily cover it here, that the additional cart cost through Westmoreland is higher.
Yeah, dramatically. I just look at
Well,
that.
Westmoreland said they couldn't provide automated collection to us, so that doesn't.
That's
really-
only for the automated. So what, okay, so let's say I have we have Westmoreland. And I want to put out
Second bin
a second bin. How does that
on,
work?
on manual collection.
Yeah.
We can find that.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't think about that answer.
Yeah.
We'll get that answer.
Sorry.
Westmoreland.
No, we didn't. I
That's a
didn't
good
think
thing,
about
that's a
that.
good question, because we get $300.
$500. Couple years.
Well, and again, that would be.
Yeah,
implemented.
But remember, this is for additional in traditional, in manual, we wouldn't even be applying to this chart because this is just for the automated side.
Okay, so we're not going with.
We do need it.
They don't provide that, sir. That's correct. But we need to get that done.
What is it?
Can I add one other thing? When you were talking about the decision of how to pay for the contract. Tax increase versus fees, there's, and I know it's in Ian's essay, there's sort of a hybrid approach of maintaining the amount that currently comes out of taxes and then sort of building a fee for the
For the
additional.
difference,
And I appreciate the point about waiting until budget. But I'm going to request that we kind of I have some direction prior to getting to that, because that'll be part of my budget message.
For sure.
And I don't want to put something in my budget as a recommended
Right.
budget that doesn't have support from
Yeah.
the commission.
Yeah.
So we'll have those conversations.
That makes sense. So we made one decision.
Made one decision.
Yeah, so additional about bins. So just kind of things that people have brought up for either internally with staff. Per the contract, if we purchase the bins ourselves, the contractor has to maintain the carts, fix the carts, provide new carts if needed. Up to there's a threshold of 10% of the carts over the life of the contract. There's a 10-year warranty on the carts. We do not have to provide a storage facility for them. They're all required to be stored at their facility, so on and so forth. practically speaking, the public works crew will most likely become good at fixing the wheels. In order to facilitate and make sure that residents have a working cart. To do that, we'll work through those types of things, but those need to be mentioned. Also with contractor provided, or we buy them, either way, we have the determination of what they look like.
Okay, great.
So that was one thing I was
You
confused
can
about.
brand them.
We can brand them, yeah, that's recommended, but, so those that, decide to move from our lovely town, I don't know why you would do such a thing.
Can't take it.
Can't take them because they.
Right,
you know,
they have our name
have
on them.
mark. So, that was when I was reading the contract, it was a point of confusion for me. I was like, are they all gonna say waste management? We're gonna have a green, yeah, so, but,
It's still going back to all the trash cans that have to be thrown away. If we go to this automated thing, it's like. There are a lot of trash cans, and I'm just thinking about what that's gonna do to the landfill. It's not like you
we won't make it.
put all your no, I mean, I was thinking, you got this many I mean, think about, we're trying to do what we can for the environment, and we're gonna start by throwing away a bunch of plastic containers.
Well, some of them can be recycled, I imagine. I mean,
And
we
then
take all of our plastic that we can't put in the single source to, Michael's Brothers.
And I met.
well, no, that's a question.
Yeah, we
Can,
do.
can,
I mean,
I'm saying,
I mean, yeah,
can these
cans be
Can be
recycled.
We'll ask that question, we'll ask that question.
Yeah,
Because I think we're gonna have to coordinate with the contractor, because how do you count them? Right, so $20 a can,
That's a lot.
that's a lot of cans to be counted. So we don't know exactly how that's gonna be structured. It's something if we go down the automated route, we're gonna have to determine.
Right.
Ian in his memo estimated 3 cans per household, so we're talking over 33,000 cans. Was what was estimated, and what that cost was, as you saw there. So that's something you're gonna have to discuss with the contractor. Is it a special day? Is it over a 2-week span? Is it with your normal contract? Keith also had a question about whether or not you can do it as part of your bulk item. Right, so
Oh,
if I
sure.
decide to keep
Yeah.
them, and then the 2 for that bulk item, can I just treat that as my bulk item and not have the municipality pay for it, so on and so forth? Those are things we have to flush out, but we can't flush that out until we go down the path of what decision we're making. Do I think that ultimately throwing out 33,000 bins is the linchpin? It may be. I don't know that answer. I can't speak for the commission, but that is something we don't know all the flushed out details yet. We will have to try that later.
and I know some communities up in the North Hills, what they did was essentially they had. When they delivered the new automated bins, they essentially had 2 trucks driving around, that the first truck kind of pulled up, dropped off your new bins. The second truck, the actual garbage truck, pulled up and just took the whole old bin with all the trash in it,
Yeah.
in the truck away. So, and there are sort of adaptive reuse items people may choose to use their existing cans for. They might use them for, yard waste bins or things like that, or
Or
you can,
overflow.
yeah, or you
You know.
can drill holes in them and turn them into compost bins, things like that. So there are things you can do with your existing bins if we go the automated route. That could be something potentially the Environmental Sustainability Board, the Public
Yeah, that's
Information
a good
Office could look
idea.
into.
Mhm.
But really, I think, we were hoping to get some direction on the commission, because if the commission's not interested in all automated collection, then we don't even kind of need to discuss that. But if there is interest, then we can discuss it. So.
Well, for the record, I'm interested in automated collection. It seems like that's the direction the country's going. Most of the municipalities I've lived in and seen already have automated collection. It seems like it does make sense financially when we look at a 10-year horizon instead of a 5-year horizon. Maybe this isn't the year we do it, maybe we do it in 5 years, but I'm willing to definitely consider automated collection now.
Me too.
Not sure about automated, but you have 2 commissioners saying, let's explore it some more. So,
I think so.
let's try and get some answers, that kind of thing. And I think hopefully you have questions.
Sure, yeah, so I'm following up on that. Do you have, just like I said, we can financially model anything, but the more we can narrow it down, the better. Do you have a preference between the contractor provided bins versus the municipality provided bins?
Whatever you would
Yeah.
Automated bi-weekly contractor,
automated weekly,
bi-weekly.
don't care. I know that's what you said. My vote's automated weekly, don't care. But that's okay.
As far as
You don't need
contractors,
bi-weekly for trash, do you?
Recycling, he said,
Just recycling. Okay, I just want to make sure, want to clarify.
and we're picking up more trash than recycling in your scenario. That's not the direction we want to go. It's not the
Good.
behavior we want to support. Where do we want to fund?
This is all. No, there's no
I
good
know it's
answer.
all
There's no good answer here.
No, it's
all
expensive, period.
Well, it's expensive and I just don't like the framework that has been provided to us. But it is what it is, so we take the step we can take.
Right.
So I think this is a logical step. And I think the next 5 years, we need to do a lot of serious thinking about how
Yeah.
to do
We
this.
want to do our own.
I think this is our time to do some serious thinking.
Well, I'd be curious between now and we have to actually do some thinking about this. Our homework on, is a 96-gallon can enough for bi-weekly recycling? Not that I want to have to spend more money on weekly recycling, but just recognizing that's a pain point, but maybe bigger can't solve the problem.
It is a pain point. I will say, I had 3 small children, you know, with lots of stuff. And I think we had 2 65-gallon trash and recycling and then a garden. And you were stuffing, but you were able to do it. You know, so a 96-gallon, I think, yeah, it's gonna be difficult with all the cardboard. But I think people adapt, or they get an additional one. Again, I don't like the solution, but I think it's viable. In my experience, I mean, I have 3 65-gallon recycling cans now. I probably use 2.5.
I have 2 and probably use half of one. That's because we take so much of our recycling over, Michael.
So Michael Brothers does take cardboard and other
They take
recyclable
cardboard, they
items
take
too, so.
plastic, they take glass, we take all of that over and recycle.
So that's a, you know, we can, as I said, we can,
The glass, it's a good reason to keep the glass out of your recycle.
yeah, we can financially model and we can message anything. So if there's a route the commission wants to go, we can kind of, you know, structure our messaging towards that as well.
Cost on a portable cardboard crusher.
So the other complaint I've heard or saw, at least in the press about one of the communities was going to the automated, was the 96 being heavy and difficult for older people to bring up hills and down hills. And being an older person, just wondering if that's something we.
So
think
we,
about.
we will not just have 96-gallon toters.
Okay. I
Just
think
leave it-
that's a
we'll
good
just leave it at
resolution.
that.
Okay.
So people can request, you know.
We will take it on a case-by-case basis,
Okay.
but we will be ready for
Yeah, I
certain
mean,
situations.
if you're disabled, you're not getting it up the driveway.
It's also.
I would, depends on how stacked your garbage is.
True.
If you put all packets to the top and try and wheel it down and you're elderly or have a disability or some sort, then of course you're not getting it there.
Right.
But they're pretty easy to handle
Yeah.
according to industry standards. I mean, they're putting these in tight spaces all over the country.
Okay.
So
Okay.
with all types of topography, so with curbs and, you know, other things,
All this stuff.
maneuvering around cars and, you know, those types of things. So but we will be ready with adjustability for residents as needed.
Great, thank you. Good answer.
Commissioner, have other questions about the presentation?
I just feel like we didn't give you very much direction.
So we have, you want us to financially model the automated with contractor provided bins and bi-weekly recycling. And I think,
And weekly recycling as an option.
and weekly recycling.
Yeah, to compare.
Per unit.
Because,
Yes, per unit was decided.
Per unit was, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
That makes
Okay.
So
sense.
really, our only question is weekly or bi-weekly?
so are we agreeing on automated right now?
I am
Well, let's go this
trying
way.
that.
I'm not sure if we're agreeing, but I heard 3 votes for automated.
Yeah,
And did you say automated? Okay, so automated, then one less thing to figure out.
And really to be honest, because the manual collection was sort of a simpler number, you already have a lot of the sub details on, you know, if you do it as part of the real estate taxes, if you do it as a fee, if you do
Right.
it as a slow conversion to a fee, you have all that for manual collection already in the essay I wrote. So we can do that for the automated collection. The one other thing I'll say that Andrew kind of referenced with the automated collection too, is that if we do the exploration of, you know, bringing the service in-house,
yes,
converting to automated collection now,
Uh-huh.
we would own the bins at the end of the 5-year contract with a 10-year warranty on them. So we would, if, let's just say hypothetically, I'm just gonna throw numbers out there, right? But the last year of the contract, it'll be $4 million for the year for the
Right.
trash contract, trash and recycling. If it comes back when we financially model this, that it's 3.5 million for us to do it in-house. Then we would already own the bins at that point in time. And wouldn't have to do the whole conversion to bins in 5 years.
Sure.
So even though the automated is a little bit more over the life of the contract than
Right.
the manual, I think at least one commissioner said it, I don't remember who, I'm sorry, but said that, that's the way things are going and we may just have to kind of bite the bullet now and do it because in the long term, it'll set us up in a better
Right.
position.
So I really don't know that you could have an answer for this, but I have to ask it. Do you have an idea of how much a garbage truck costs?
About
How-
$500,000.
$500,000. And how long do they typically last?
Well, our contract requires that the contractor, the specifications require that the contractor has a unit that's less than 5 years old
Wow.
when they initiate the contract.
Several years ago, Commissioner Grella had asked the question, so we did some very high level
Oh, okay.
modeling at that point.
And that's also, it depends on the truck as well.
Oh, I'm
And
sure. I
because
mean, I
availability
really.
right now,
yeah,
the folks that I
really
talked to,
limited.
it takes about 2 years to get a truck right now. If
Yeah.
you ordered one today, you wouldn't see it
Yeah.
for a year and a half, 2
How
years.
many trucks would you need, do you think?
In my conversation, 6 to 7 probably for both, plus operators,
Okay,
plus a place to
operator.
work on them, plus mechanics.
Oh, sure, yeah, I just want some kind of
Housing,
scope
cleaning.
of.
Yeah, and the one,
What it would be.
as part of this, will be obviously part of a future discussion as we get
Mhm.
more details.
Sure.
But the one thing that we won't have control and that will be the hardest to predict is Waste Management actually controls the dump site,
Landfills.
recycling facilities.
Sure,
So they will determine tipping fees and cost.
Yeah.
right,
So again,
Right.
depending on how the industry
Yeah.
moves, if too many people decide to do this, they'll just adjust so they can still.
We'll make the money separate.
I had a decent length conversation with the municipal manager in West Mifflin, and they've been collecting their own trash forever. And they're about 80% of our size, so scaling up their numbers by about 20% more kind of landed us on that. That kind of range.
so when I was growing up, my family's from Maine, we literally had the dump. We live on a peninsula, the dump was in the middle of the peninsula. And now it's covered over with grass, but it's slowly going down. Stunk to high heaven, seagulls everywhere. I may still remember it. There was a landfill right there.
So while we still have a couple minutes, with respect to the fee analysis that we'll provide you, is there any interest in doing it all in one fell swoop? Or is it only the phased in fee that you would be interested in?
I'm open to one fell swoop.
Okay,
I can see them both.
okay,
I would go both too.
okay.
I'd rather do both.
You don't want to throw you numbers that you don't want to consider anything.
Do you also want to see the real estate tax numbers if we kept it in with the real estate taxes or just look at
Yes.
the fee numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
The spreadsheet will already be open, so.
Yeah.
Might work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already created.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a tax increase for it's a fee for it.
So
Any
we got,
other,
we got some key decisions for you, and then you'll come back with the numbers.
Yes.
Well, I-
right, so
Yeah, so the decision for how procedurally we need it by, just so everyone knows, August 19th. We need to
Yeah.
I
answer.
think August 17th, but the
17th.
August 8th commission meeting is
Yeah,
the one.
decision point.
Yeah.
So we have 1 or 2 commission meetings before that. We have one in July.
We have the July 11th meeting, but we have a pretty full discussion session then with the unassigned fund balance discussion, the park plan discussion, the Arden Road traffic discussion. And then there would be the August 8th discussion.
So August 8th is it?
That being said, we can get you all of the information related to this well in advance of that
Yes,
August
please.
8th discussion.
Right.
So that we can limit the amount of time and hopefully we're down at that point. And again, as that information comes, you can send back questions. Hopefully then we've narrowed the decision point.
Right. We're,
that meeting.
yeah, we're really just deciding weekly versus bi-weekly recycling and then how to pay for it as a separate decision, but we don't have to decide how to pay for it before we.
Oh, you also have to decide municipal provided or.
Or,
That's right.
contractor.
Municipal or contracted privates. Okay, so two decisions we absolutely have to make on that 11th meeting.
Yeah.
And then ideally we get into the how we're gonna fund it.
I scribbled down 3 votes for contractor provided, but maybe they were not, that was not.
Oh, I said I don't care. I don't know. I said,
yeah, I don't know that I care whether it's contractor provided or municipal.
All right, okay. All right.
Sorry, I don't think I.
what are you gonna do?
Okay, so either one of
You're gonna have to
Chair
be-
Prasad.
I'll say I'm highly intrigued by the hybrid approach of the contractor provided solid waste bins and municipality provided recycling bins.
Okay,
So if it was my recommendation, I would model that one too, but.
Yeah.
The contractor provided solid waste bins, municipality provided recycling bins.
That's the opportunity for the potentially grants.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
You can
Yeah.
do grant actually for the recycling.
Go for it.
Let's take a look at those options.
okay, so two decisions, but there's this like hybrid.
Yeah.
We can do it, right?
You may get another
Do it.
lengthy essay.
Well, I don't think,
Right now.
well, I don't think cost wise, you're gonna see the higher end with all provided by us. I don't think we want to go all provided municipal cards. That's, staff's not recommending that,
Okay, thank you.
right? So we'll throw that option out. It's really that hybrid option or all contractor provided. It's really.
Well, hybrid really only benefits us because of the
Grant.
Grant, correct. And that's, we're not.
If we can go back to the, I don't know who's running the Zoom.
Grant,
Sandy.
Sandy, can you expand my presentation?
Keith, with the grant, are we really just stealing money from one bucket into another?
No, I mean,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily.
They haven't necessarily reached the cap.
Just to see, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we,
You still have to decide to fund the beast.
right, is there,
If you decide to fund the beast, a grant ain't covering it.
yeah,
Just a grant ain't covering it.
yeah, if the grant for the stump grinder would only offset maybe a third of the cost.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
The big number.
okay. So we'll get.
The point is,
Get three of
we're-
them.
but I think you brought the point, but we're already allocating those funds anyway. I'm just robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Really saving money.
So
So,
it's gotta be factored in.
yeah, so really looking at the top two options here between contractor provides everything and the hybrid approach. That if we were successful in getting that $300,000 grant for the offset of the municipality providing the recycling bins, then you've reduced that 19.7 down to 19.4, and the hybrid option becomes the cheaper one of these for automated collection. So
You save an additional $50,000. If you get the full 350, offsetting that over contractor provided.
Except you made the comment about paying for beast, which means if that expense is still there.
It's $50,000 more for the beast.
No,
And then-
we're just making sure we're adding as opposed to just rearranging.
No, we're not.
and then weekly recycling, you'd be looking at, $3 million. So we can model this out for you. We'll provide you the numbers on a per year basis also, just so you can kind of look from a budgetary standpoint, because since there are upfront costs in year one, there's some a little bit more of a lift there with these automated options, but we'll, provide another essay for you and hopefully distill down the decision points to a, easy to digest point by the end of the next 20-some pages that I give you.
So much for light summer reading. All right, any other questions for the delegation?
Great job,
I
though.
just want to add, I want to say thanks to Rudy and Andrew for all their work on this too, because we got the numbers from Shaycog at like 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And then we almost immediately noticed that something was wrong in their numbers and contacted them, and then wound up getting a corrected bid sheet like Monday afternoon or o'clock. And thanks to my counterparts here, we were able to get everything together and get the commission, the memo by email by Tuesday afternoon. So thanks to everyone for all the
Ian went into DEFCON 4. The window in the office that said basically, don't come in here unless.
Whatever it takes us.
No, he had his 6 kids in there doing the work.
Breaking all the labor laws.
Yeah. Checking his mail.
Ratting him out. Thank you, appreciate the
Thanks.
presentation.
Ah.
All right, we finally have a chance to talk about boards and authorities. Any updates?
Community relations. I don't have an update on MRTSA because our meeting's tomorrow night and both Steve and I had to miss the last meeting because of family health issues, so. We have nothing on that. And library also did not meet, but had their garden tour on Sunday. I don't have an update yet on how it went, but it's usually a sold out success. Let's hope it was. Community relations had a table at the Pride event. It went very well. They had one of the questions, the only question they asked the community was, what does a welcoming Mount Lebanon look like? And they collected that information, which we will make sure gets over to Ian for the, as part of the comp plan. That went very well. The Pride event was fabulous. It was very well attended, lots and lots of people from other communities. Very positive feedback. It was just a tremendous event, I have to say. Community relations also met with Chief Haberman to talk about police procedures. Thank you very much for your time, Chief Haberman. You have wowed them all and they love you, so that's a really important thing. But no, you have a wonderful way of talking with people and reassuring them, and I think that'll be an ongoing discussion, but it's off on good footing, which is really the very best way to go. Also, thanks to Keith for coming to the last meeting to discuss appropriate roles for community relations. That went well. The magazine article this past month on the Turkish thing was terrific. It's St. Paul's has a very close relationship with the Turkish community, and Laura has made a concerted effort to try to cover some of the diversity within our community by, meeting with people, et cetera, et cetera. It was really great. Home run. There you have it.
Nice.
Mhm.
Want me to go Historic Preservation Board, and we had a meeting on Monday. And they talked primarily about their education ideas and outreach ideas for the next year or until April when their board transitions. The idea that kind of permeated to the top was First Fridays. They've done that before, but it was pre-COVID. Not sure if they're gonna attend both or maybe attend the Vibrant Uptown's closed street and have a table there. That's August 5th? Okay, August 5th. Other ideas that were tossed around were to have in-office workshops or do consulting, local architecture speakers forum, cemetery tour, develop a historic driving tour, walking tour, a tour of building being renovated or restored, develop list of book resources, work with the library on that. And a couple other ideas. Anything to add, Laura? Did it all? Keep in touch.
Parks Board is busy, though they spoke at the last commission meeting, so I won't add to
Right.
that. They have their list that they recommended to us. They are doing yeoman's work as always. I actually had an impromptu visit to the gardens after the Manager's Pavilion event. I walked down there to go see it, and Peter Argentine was there, so he gave me a tour. I totally appreciate why they are hoping for some upgrades, but it's a nice space, and I can see why they enjoy being there. It's a great community asset, and I'm surprised I had never been there before. So that's Parks. Connect is very busy with a whole variety of things. Just a couple notes. They sent out an RFP for solar assessments. Mount Lebanon is participating. It's basically they're looking for contractors to come out, make recommendations, do site assessments. No commitments, at this point, right? It's just trying to consolidate across a whole range of municipalities, looking at public facilities where solar is an opportunity. So it's a great thing that Connect is coordinating there. EDC is meeting on Friday, so no update on EDC, and the partnership hired their first part-time executive director.
Wow.
Yes, so they're all extremely excited and I couldn't
Oh
agree
my
more.
gosh.
They have someone there, really trying to pick up the ball and carry it more permanently, taking some weight off of Eric Milliron. Which I'm sure he will appreciate that once things settle in. But fantastic work and the partnership continues to do fantastic work in Uptown.
Cool. Planning board, one is, there is a development on Pennsylvania Boulevard, and they're gonna make a presentation actually at the next commission meeting. It's, I think, 5 units. So they make a presentation to us for us to look at and ask questions. There's another development that is that where Old Gilkison and Cedar, that space there. And that received preliminary approval. I believe that's 10 units.
11, I think it's 11
11.
on Old Gilkison,
Yep.
and the Pennsylvania Boulevard one is 5 duplexes, so 10 total units.
And they're connected, but because they have individual property lines, they're considered individual units, but it's a similar sort of model. What we see, for instance, in Uptown, that kind of thing. But anyway, so 2 interesting projects making their way through the planning board. You've got
I'm just there are different fire rules that apply to between duplexes and fourplexes, et cetera, et cetera. So I was just looking at you like, well, there probably is something here, but I'm sure that the code people are on it and fire is as well.
Typically, it goes
Yeah.
to the codes review and then we get involved with it.
We do firewalls over a certain,
It depends on a number of factors, but we,
Okay.
all into the current fire code will ensure that everything.
Yeah. It's just so much wood construction now, which it never used to be. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop, sorry.
no, that's interesting stuff. So great, thank you. So anyway, so that this group of planning traffic so they're at summer hiatus now. And you serve on Versa, so.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I missed the last outreach board. I know you tried to dial in.
And I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they forgot to pick me up. I dialed in, but
Yeah.
I was sat in the waiting room for the whole time. But they really were talking about fundraising. They had a very successful May.
The main fundraiser.
May
at the
fundraiser was
SBTC.
very successful and yeah. And they continue to expand their services.
Yes.
That was one of the big concerns. They had lost one of their, I'm gonna say psychologists, guide, person, and they were able to replace them fairly quickly. So that was a big help. Because they've had a waiting list for the first time in their history, I think. But it doesn't happen often that they have a waiting list and that helped scale it back
Backlog
down.
of patients.
Working with the library, trying to make mental health less of a stigma and more of a typical normal thing to talk about all overall wellness as opposed to just mental health. Working with the library to do it, and apparently that's going well.
And the chief is here, because I know they're working with the police chief on
Yeah.
mental health and I'm. Nope.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's right, with outreach and the program with outreach, how is that progressing from your end?
So we met with the Mertz police chiefs. We started to talk about some options as far as funding and some models where we can propose to you all, some real concrete options
Great.
for you. We came up with 2 models. One would be a cooperative model that would be a standalone funding stream. The other would be through Mertz's current funding that we would bolster their funding X amount per community cost with a buying cost and then a usage per usage type model that we would mimic sort of animal control, if you will. That's one thing that we talked about. We right now are looking at meeting with outreach themselves to see if they would be a better fit, the medical rescue team, in terms of a delivery of services type option. And so that's sort of the plan moving forward. So I feel like we have a couple of options on the table. We just have to see what fits for us. Now, there's been a number of different models that are out there, and we feel like if we pull our resources together, that's the best fit for us and our neighboring communities right now. And that's where we're at with that. So more to come on it, but we are working diligently in the background on it.
Did we hear anything back from the foundation grant that you guys applied for?
We did not hear anything back, and again, that on our
Yeah.
sort of idea that we did not receive that funding. It's more
Sure.
for underserved and under marginalized communities.
Yeah.
And so recognizing that, we're gonna move forward with sort of our attempt at some kind of a funding model, if you will. So
Great.
the manager, Mr. McGill, and I have been talking about, again, the next step moving forward with involving you all and when we're going to do that.
Great, thank you for that update.
Good
Thank you.
program.
Any other questions? concerns?
Because we have time, I just wanted to once again thank everybody who made that manager's pavilion at the golf course possible. That's the commission, that's all of the companies that dedicated services, that's all everybody that donated. It was a very nice, I'll say, dedication ceremony. And I've heard back from a lot of the families of former managers who were honored as part of that celebration. And I'll just share one comment from Steve Feller's daughter, who said it was extremely nice because she obviously knew her father in his role as her father. But it was nice to hear the comments from other people who interacted with her father in a professional capacity, and some of the stories and that they shared. So again, very well done and not possible without David, Colin, Laura,
Yes.
everybody else from staff, Sandy Merrick, Joanne Singley. I mean, it was truly a collective effort. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very nice, and the weather held off
Yeah.
until they got out on the golf course.
Goodness, great. Thank you. With that, we'll be adjourned. We'll see you in the big room.